Welcome to W.I.N with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? Success in business most often comes down to hard work, not by silver bullets and quick fixes. It's knowing where to focus that hard work that's key to winning. Join sales prospecting expert and 3-time seven-figure business founder Carrie Richardson and managing partner of R&R Consulting and former owner of W.I.N Technologies, Ian Richardson, for radical honesty regarding strategic planning, accountability, and execution that will get you the systematic results you're working toward. Let's get into today's episode. Thought leader and your host, Ian Richardson.
Hello and welcome to W.I.N. I'm your host, Ian Richardson of Richardson and Richardson Consulting, and today my guest is myself. Sometimes you have a gap in the podcast recording schedule, and sticking with it and making sure that you have a podcast each week is a core focus of mine. And so I thought I'd take this time to talk about myself and run through my own self-interview. So my background, for those of you who aren't familiar, I owned and operated an IT business in the mid-Michigan region, W.I.N Technologies, for about 16 years. I sold that business at the end of last year, and today I have two roles. I'm managing partner at Richardson and Richardson Consulting, a strategic management and account-based marketing agency, and I'm also CEO at Managed Sales Pros, which was founded by my wife, Carrie Richardson, about 8-9 years ago, and that's a IT channel specific business development and appointment setting agency through outbound telemarketing. So marketing's a big part of my world, and I do a lot of different things in a lot of different ways around that. At W.I.N, we always follow a process. We talk about challenges, achievements, and opportunities in that order. There's a bunch of different challenges that I'm working on currently in my world. Time management and process adherence is a big one. It's really, really easy to forget the little individual actions that drive things forward, that create momentum, that keep our funnel full, that create impact in the world. It's easy for me personally to skip steps. What I've found is whenever I skip a step in my process, it never works out for me in the long run. This podcast recording is a great example. Not having a guest lined up for this particular week means that, hey, I could have taken the week off, but that's not following the process. It's also challenging to juggle items. I can find that my days can creep from 9 to 5 to being more like 7 to 8. Pretty fast. Making sure that I've got some organization is really, really key in my world. I live and die in my CRM. I use Zoho, but HubSpot, Salesforce, pick your poison of choice. I live and die in it. If I don't put in the CRM, I won't forget about it. So every appointment that I have goes into the CRM, gets detailed notes, gets next steps scheduled. I do it right away or else I won't do it. I live and die by my Outlook calendar. It really saves me on everything else. I'm a big fan of the reminders window in Outlook, so just those reminders crop up, and my goal at the end of the day is that the reminders list is empty. Another big thing that's been helpful for keeping track is just I'll start draft emails and leave them up. So I'll throw in who's it going to, what's the subject line, and if there's a couple of bullets that I need, I toss it into the draft. And then I just finish that email at my convenience, but it really helps me keep track of those communication items. Thinking about achievements, there's been a couple of big wins and carries in my world. We're almost to 40% of our Shave That Beard charity effort. In case you're unfamiliar, Matt Lee, the Senior Director of Compliance and Security over at Pax8, a cloud distributor, and I are pretty good buddies, and last year at the ConnectWise IT Nation Connect event, the big Keystone conference in Orlando, Florida in November, Matt, Carrie, and I were all in the hall, and Carrie asked Matt, "Hey, Matt, would you ever shave your beard?" He said, "No, I'm quite partial to my beard." And she said, "Well, what about for like not for any financial resources at all? No, it's worth more than money to me. Well, what about for charity?" And Matt kind of hung his head and said, "Well, yeah, I'd do that." And what dropped out of that is, hey, for $100,000, he'd absolutely be willing to shave his beard for charity, and that's kind of snowballed. Carrie has recruited a lot of industry experts and movers and shakers, and we're about 40% of the way there. We're right under 40,000. I'm shifting my focus now that we've built out some logistics and legalese and documentation to doing what's called major donor recruitment, meaning calling up people and saying, "Hey, would you be willing to donate 5, 10, 20, $50,000 to the cause?" And that's kind of ramping up over the next 2 weeks. I'm hoping to be able to talk about it again on this podcast after we hit that 100,000 and roll out the next stage, the next portion of the BHAG, which is a big one. So that's cool to see forward momentum on that. Carrie's been invited to speak at Michigan Works. Michigan Works is the local workforce readiness program in the state of Michigan. It's a statewide program, and she's been invited to speak at their annual conference around workforce readiness in marketing agencies, essentially recruiting people to do outbound and inbound telemarketing, how you can use them in a call center, how you can partner with state and local resources to get those people trained for low cost or even no cost, and really help people kind of get back on their feet. She's super passionate about this. They've done that through Managed Sales Pros as a strategic focus for years now. And it's just a really great opportunity for us to go out and do some give back to the local community and share some knowledge on what works and doesn't work. We've also been invited to speak at the Lansing Regional Chamber of Commerce around business development and prospecting, and we're excited to be able to share our knowledge with the Lansing community at large. Another big win in our world is our process, the Richardson and Richardson process, which we started brainstorming around November of last year, and really spent the first half of 2022 building and tweaking and developing is showing value. The way that we do initial consultations with people are showing value. Some of our offerings, like the Thursday process, have been showing value to those participants, being able to get processes out of the entrepreneur's head and formalize them and document them. Even this podcast has been showing value to guests, being able to come on and raise visibility for what they're working on, what they've achieved, and what their business can provide to the marketplace. It's great to see value dropping out of all of these things that we've been building, because this is a new company and it's a new tact, it's a new method, and making forward progress on our impact to help entrepreneurs change the world is really a passion point of both Carrie's and mine. And so we're happy to see that forward momentum going. In terms of what's next, what's the opportunity we're going to be pursuing next? A couple of different things. Carrie and I are going to be building a new house. We're really excited about that. That's definitely a challenge, achievement, and opportunity in one. But we're aiming to build a house that has close to zero impact on the environment. It's a passion point of mine that we'll be putting in geothermal heat, we'll be putting in solar panels, potentially getting a plug-in hybrid car. Really trying to minimize the impact on the environment. We're building a shipping container home, so we're reusing materials, recapturing materials, trying to be as inventive and as green as possible, not only for the financial resources for us, but hey, that's two people who minimize their carbon footprint. So we're excited about that. We're going to be continuing our content calendar creation. We do a lot of content here at Richardson and Richardson. There's blog posts, there's these podcasts, a variety of webinar series, and we're actually stepping that up. So you'll be noticing some new blog series coming out from me. Carrie and I are trying to launch a book report series. Where we'll be focusing on continuing education and then sharing our takeaways, and adding in some new webinar series coming in 2023, plus a road show, which will create just a lot of content around Penny the Van and van life and our intentional business travels. We're looking in quarter 4, running into quarter 1 of next year, to invite local Michigan-based business owners onto this podcast. So we've been doing a nationwide play with a lot of our connections out of the IT space, and we're trying to get a little bit more local in season 2 of W.I.N. So we'll be continuing to inviting national leaders, but also inviting some Michigan-based entrepreneurs outside of the technical space to share their challenges, achievements, and opportunities with the world at large. So coming soon to a podcast studio near you. Speaking of podcast studio, we're evaluating building an office near our home over in Mason, Michigan for Richardson and Richardson, and we would be putting in formal podcast studios there with soundproofing, proper lighting. Obviously, you see that boom mic that Carrie has, a couple of those, some webinar studios, things like that. If we end up pursuing that opportunity, you'll be seeing those here. We'll have some interesting spaces to walk through, and we'll talk about the strategy of that. The last thing that I'd like to talk about, and that's a personal thing, is I'm working on a book. The working title right now, subject to change, is the Entrepreneurial Cookbook, or the Entrepreneur's Cookbook. And this stems out of our Thursday Process webinar series, where other CEOs come in and share the processes they've used in their business to great success with the community at large. I'm collecting up those processes, and I've got a target of at least 40 to 50 of them, so we're a ways out yet, where I will take those processes and organize them into ops, sales, finance, marketing, HR, etc., and stitch it all together and then share those recipes online with the world. We may end up doing a printed run. It depends on how far forward in the future we do, but it'll be kind of cool to be able to collect the wisdom of 40 to 50 different leading CEOs and then share it back out to the world. So quite excited about that. That's kind of what I had today. I'm Ian Richardson from Richardson & Richardson. I appreciate you tuning in to this very short podcast. That was me talking at you into the camera. If you'd like to learn more about Richardson & Richardson, you can connect with us on LinkedIn. You can view our website at R&R, all spelled out, RANDR.consulting. There you can see our blogs, download our white papers, view previous versions of this podcast, consume all of our on-demand webinars, and see in general what Carrie and I are up to. I'm on LinkedIn as well, so is Carrie. Love to connect with you, reach out to me. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can go to rndr.consulting/connect. Click a podcast booking option. It'll book 45 minutes. I'll walk you through the podcast and we'll record it in one go. Until next time, take it easy.
You've been listening to W.I.N. with Richardson & Richardson. What's important now? We're so glad you've joined us and know you're one step closer to winning big in your business too. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to connect@rnr.consulting. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll easily know when new episodes are available. Until next time, you can win, and we're here to help.